They did a seismic survey around the Sphinx, and they identified a very large geometrical chamber, about 15 feet beneath the forepaws of the Sphinx.
Beneath the Great Sphinx of Giza lies a mystery that has captivated explorers and scientists for centuries.
Okay, so that's a dead end. Here we are under the Sphinx.
Hidden chambers, buried in sand, may contain secrets powerful enough to rewrite human history.
One thing I would anticipate finding, if there is something in those chambers beneath the Sphinx,
with the scans and watermarks telling a different story of our origin. But is this the concealed hall of records? Join us as we reveal the Sphinx's secrets that could literally rewrite history. Underground chamber discovery. In 1991, on the sun-baked Giza Plateau, American scientists made a discovery that would shake the foundations of ancient Egyptian history. Dr. Robert Schoch, an experienced geologist, and his team weren't looking for hidden chambers when they began their work. They were simply studying the ground around the Great Sphinx using special sound equipment called seismic surveys. But what they found was extraordinary: a large room-sized space hidden beneath the left paw of the ancient monument. This wasn't just another small crack or natural hollow in the limestone bedrock. The cavity they detected was carefully shaped and distinctly different from the surrounding rock. The discovery was so significant that NBC, one of America's biggest television networks, created a program on it called The Mystery of the Sphinx. More than 30 million viewers tuned in during prime time to learn about this remarkable finding. The show captured the imagination of people worldwide, all wondering what secrets might lie in this hidden chamber.
I think in many ways it was the mystery of the Sphinx that really broke everything open. It brought everything to the public attention.
For centuries, local legends had spoken of underground passages and hidden rooms beneath the Sphinx. Ancient Egyptian texts mentioned secret chambers containing important documents and artifacts. Even Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, had predicted decades earlier that a hidden chamber under the Sphinx's paw would contain records of Atlantis and humanity's true origins. But just as researchers were preparing to investigate further, Egyptian authorities stepped in. The project came to an abrupt halt, and scientists were banned from conducting additional studies. The chamber, if it truly exists, remains unexplored to this day. What makes this story even more intriguing is that the same area had been investigated before. In the 1830s, French engineers reported finding a doorway near the Sphinx that led underground. They too were mysteriously forced to stop their work. Today, wooden boards cover an unusual section of tiled floor between the Sphinx's front paws, exactly where these discoveries were reported. Some researchers suggest the chamber might be part of a larger network of tunnels and rooms that ancient texts described running beneath the Giza Plateau.
Now believed that the Sphinx was carved by the pharaoh Chephren in his own image 4,500 years ago.
But even more interesting, what made Egypt's most famous archaeologist suddenly change his story about what lies beneath the Sphinx? Zahi Hawass's involvement. At the center of the Sphinx controversy stands Dr. Zahi Hawass, Egypt's former Minister of Antiquities. Known for his charismatic personality and trademark Indiana Jones-style hat, Hawass has spent decades as the public face of Egyptian archaeology. His official title gave him complete control over who could study Egypt's ancient monuments and who couldn't. When news of the chamber beneath the Sphinx spread in the 1990s, Hawass first dismissed it as American hallucinations. But in 1996, he launched a $10 million project to explore the very area he had just denied existed. Egyptian television crews followed him as he descended through an opening into tunnels beneath the ancient monument. Standing inside the underground passage, Hawass spoke excitedly to the camera, declaring, "Even Indiana Jones will never dream to be here." His enthusiasm was clear as he added, "We are now inside the Sphinx in this tunnel. No one knows what's inside this tunnel, but we are going to open it for the first time." The teaser video ended there, leaving viewers worldwide eager to learn what lay deeper inside. But something strange happened. 2 years into the project, Hawass suddenly changed course. He shut down all exploration and began insisting there was absolutely nothing under the Sphinx. When pressed about the tunnels he had been filmed entering, he claimed they were merely holes dug by ancient treasure hunters. This dramatic reversal raised eyebrows in the archaeological community. Historical records showed several well-documented entrances into the Sphinx, including a hole on top of its head now sealed with concrete, another covered by a large stone block, and an opening on the monument's back. Hawass himself had been recorded peering into these openings, yet he now denied their significance. The situation became even more puzzling when Hawass began restricting access to the area. Instead of allowing independent researchers to verify his claims, he blocked off all known entrances and banned further investigation. When asked to show evidence supporting his new position, he offered no photographs or documentation from his 2-year exploration. Adding to the mystery, the wooden boards placed between the Sphinx's paws during the 19th century remained untouched and uninvestigated. These boards, covering what appears to be an ancient tiled floor, sit at the exact spot where French engineers reported finding an entrance in the 1830s. Hawass's contradictory statements and actions have led many researchers to question what was discovered during his project. If nothing existed beneath the Sphinx, why spend $10 million exploring it? Why film a promotional video showing underground tunnels only to later deny their importance? And perhaps most importantly, why prevent other scientists from conducting their studies of these features? Historical cover-up claims. The story of hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx stretches back to the 1830s when the monument still lay buried up to its neck in the desert sand. A team of French engineers working to uncover the ancient structure reportedly made an extraordinary discovery: a doorway leading into the bedrock beneath the Great Stone Guardian. Their excitement was short-lived. According to historical records, mysterious figures appeared at the excavation site and forced the engineers to abandon their work. The identity of these interferers was never revealed, but their actions set a pattern that would repeat throughout the next 100 years. This wasn't an isolated incident. By the 1920s, rumors circulated about an Egyptian mafia, not common criminals, but a powerful group controlling the flow of information about Egypt's ancient past. These weren't simple tomb robbers or artifact smugglers. Instead, they appeared to be well-connected individuals with the authority to shut down official archaeological projects. The physical evidence of possible hidden chambers remains visible today, particularly in the space between the Sphinx's massive front paws. While most of the bedrock around the monument shows natural limestone surfaces, this crucial area is different. Here, carefully placed tiles create a flat floor, tiles that have been covered by wooden boards since the 1800s.
Is that the Sphinx itself is in very bad shape in the 20th century. It's deteriorating very quickly.
These aren't ordinary construction materials. The tiles sit at the same level as the surrounding bedrock, suggesting they were intentionally installed to cover something below. Even more intriguing, these are the same boards placed there when the Sphinx was first excavated from the sand, and they've never been officially investigated or removed. The placement of these tiles raises important questions. The ancient Egyptians were careful builders who rarely added unnecessary features to their monuments. The tiles' location, directly between the paws of the Sphinx, matches multiple historical accounts of a hidden entrance. This includes the French engineer's discovery and ancient texts describing a hall of records beneath the monument. Archaeological evidence supports the possibility of hidden chambers. The limestone bedrock beneath the Sphinx is naturally full of caves and hollows. The ancient Egyptians often expanded these natural features into tombs and storage chambers. Ground-penetrating radar surveys have detected unusual hollow spaces beneath the tiles, yet all requests to investigate these areas have been denied. After nearly 2 centuries of similar incidents, one fact becomes clear: whatever secret the Sphinx guards, someone believes it's important enough to keep hidden. Edgar Cayce's prophecies. Edgar Cayce was born in 1877 on a small farm near Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Unlike most psychics who made vague predictions, Cayce became known for providing specific details that could be verified. He earned the nickname the Sleeping Prophet because he delivered all his predictions while in a self-induced sleep state. A professional stenographer sits by his bedside during these sessions, recording every word. These detailed records show an uncanny ability to foresee major events. In 1929, Cayce predicted the stock market crash months before it happened. He accurately described the rise and fall of Adolf Hitler and the collapse of the Soviet Union, and even forecasted that the United States would elect its first black president.
Preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Perhaps his most remarkable prediction came in 1932 when he spoke of a hidden chamber beneath the Sphinx's paws. He called it the Hall of Records and said it contained documents from an advanced civilization that existed long before ancient Egypt. According to Cayce, this chamber would be discovered in the 1990s, perfectly preserved like a time capsule. What makes this prediction particularly noteworthy is that Cayce described these underground chambers 3 years before archaeologist Hamilton Wright announced finding tunnels beneath the Sphinx. At the time of Cayce's prediction, most experts didn't believe anything existed under the monument. The accuracy of his prediction becomes even more striking when compared to modern scientific discoveries. Cayce said the Sphinx wasn't 4,500 years old, as archaeologists claimed, but dated back 12,000 years to around 10,000 BC. Decades later, geologist Robert Schoch's analysis of water erosion patterns on the Sphinx suggested a similar age. Cayce's readings described the Hall of Records as containing historical documents and artifacts from Atlantis, the legendary advanced civilization mentioned by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. He said these records would reveal humanity's true origins and document multiple cycles of human civilization that rose and fell over millions of years. The sleeping prophet made one final prediction that proved true: his death. On January 1st, 1945, he predicted he would be buried in 4 days. 3 days later, he died of a stroke, exactly as foretold. The official records of Cayce's readings, maintained by the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach, contain over 14,000 documented predictions. Researchers have verified that many of his predictions about world events came true during his lifetime, leading even skeptics to wonder about his unfulfilled prophecies. Today, as radar scans show mysterious chambers beneath the Sphinx and authorities continue to restrict access to the area, Cayce's detailed description of the Hall of Records remains neither proven nor disproven. Historical accounts of underground labyrinths. In the 5th century BC, when the pyramids were already 2,000 years old, a Greek historian named Herodotus traveled to Egypt. Known as the father of history, Herodotus was famous for carefully recording what he saw and heard during his journeys. His writings provide some of our earliest detailed accounts of ancient Egyptian civilization. During his visit, an Egyptian priest guided Herodotus through a remarkable underground complex. The historian wrote about a vast labyrinth that seemed impossible to navigate without help. Near one corner of this maze, he described a pyramid standing 240 feet tall, decorated with carved animal figures. Most significantly, he noted an underground passage that connected this pyramid to others at Memphis.
The tunnel is carved into the rock at a depth of about 13 meters below the ground.
The area we now call the Giza Plateau. 8 centuries later, another prominent scholar documented similar findings. Iamblichus, a Syrian philosopher known for his careful study of Egyptian mysteries, wrote specifically about tunnels accessed through the Sphinx itself. He described galleries cut into the monument's base that led to the underground sections of the Great Pyramid. Iamblichus provided precise details about these passages, noting how they were deliberately designed to confuse visitors. The tunnels crossed and turned so cleverly that anyone entering without a guide would eventually return to their starting point, completely lost in the underground maze. These accounts align with Egyptian architectural practices of the time. The ancient Egyptians were master tunnel builders, creating elaborate underground complexes throughout their civilization. The Valley of the Kings contains hundreds of such tunnels, many featuring similar anti-intruder designs described by Iamblichus. Both historians emphasized the sophisticated engineering of these underground spaces. The passages weren't rough-cut caves, but carefully planned corridors with smooth walls and precise angles. They described chambers large enough for groups to gather, and mentioned sophisticated ventilation systems that kept fresh air flowing deep underground. Archaeological evidence supports these ancient accounts. Modern surveys have detected numerous underground passages in the Giza Plateau, though most remain unexplored. Some of these tunnels follow paths similar to those described by Herodotus and Iamblichus, suggesting their accounts were based on real observations. The ancient texts also mention specific markers and symbols that guided authorized visitors through the maze. Similar navigation marks have been found in other Egyptian underground complexes, lending credibility to these historical descriptions. If these respected scholars accurately recorded what they saw, a vast network of tunnels might connect the Sphinx, pyramids, and numerous underground chambers. In the 20th century, modern archaeologists found concrete evidence of their existence, but they were suddenly given a gag order. Why? Ancient underground subway discovery. The year 1923 marked a turning point in Egyptian archaeology. On February 16th, archaeologists uncovered the tomb of King Tutankhamun, sparking a worldwide fascination with ancient Egypt. The discovery of this young pharaoh's untouched tomb, filled with golden treasures, drew scholars and adventurers from across the globe to the deserts of Egypt.
Tutankhamun was only 9 years old when he ascended the throne to rule during the 18th dynasty in ancient Egypt.
Among these researchers was Hamilton M. Wright, who launched an ambitious project to explore the Giza Plateau. For 10 years, his team methodically cleared and mapped the ancient site. Their work was slow and careful, but in 1935, they made a discovery that would challenge everything experts thought they knew about ancient Egyptian capabilities. Deep beneath the limestone bedrock, Wright's team found evidence of what he described as an ancient subway system. This wasn't a simple tunnel or tomb entrance. It was an elaborate network of underground passages. The main tunnel ran beneath the causeway connecting the second pyramid to the Sphinx, suggesting it was part of the original architectural plan. Wright documented a series of vertical shafts dropping more than 125 feet into the earth. These shafts connected to large chambers cut into the bedrock, with side passages branching off in multiple directions. The engineering skill required to create such a complex would have rivaled modern construction techniques. However, later that same year, Egyptian authorities suddenly imposed strict restrictions on any stories about underground tunnels in Egypt. Journalists were banned from reporting on the discoveries, and researchers were denied access to the site. The story vanished from newspapers as quickly as it had appeared. Wright's findings matched several aspects of the site's geology. The limestone bedrock beneath the Giza Plateau naturally contains layers of softer stone that ancient builders could have easily carved out.
Inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, behind these gigantic chevrons above the main entrance,
modern ground-penetrating radar has revealed numerous hollow spaces throughout the plateau, at similar depths to Wright's subway system. The engineering features Wright described align with known ancient Egyptian construction techniques. The civilization's architects were experts at cutting precise right angles in stone and creating air shafts for ventilation, skills that would have been essential for building an underground network. This discovery might explain how ancient Egyptians moved thousands of workers and massive stone blocks around the pyramid complex during construction. An underground transportation system would have allowed them to work efficiently, regardless of weather conditions, and without creating paths that would have interfered with the sacred architecture above ground. The water erosion hypothesis. In 1991, geologist Robert Schoch stood before the Great Sphinx with different questions than most researchers. Instead of studying ancient texts or searching for hidden chambers, he examined the deep grooves and patterns carved into the limestone walls surrounding the monument. What he found would challenge everything we thought we knew about human civilization. Schoch noticed that the erosion patterns on the Sphinx's enclosure walls didn't match what he'd expect to see in a desert environment. As a geologist with years of experience studying how rocks weather over time, he recognized these distinctive marks. They were created by thousands of years of heavy rainfall, not by wind and sand as previously believed. The discovery was significant enough to attract NBC's attention, leading to a documentary called The Mystery of the Sphinx. When the program aired during primetime television, more than 30 million viewers learned about this revolutionary finding. Shock demonstrated how the vertical grooves running down the Sphinx's walls matched patterns seen on limestone structures in regions with heavy rainfall.
There is far more than just a single pyramid when it comes to the whole construction project that erected them.
These rain-carved channels were entirely different from wind erosion patterns seen on other Egyptian monuments of similar age. Wind and sand create horizontal striations and rough, uneven surfaces, but the Sphinx's walls showed smooth, undulating vertical grooves, the unmistakable signature of water running down its sides for thousands of years. John Anthony West, who worked with Shock, took their findings to other geologists for verification. In one telling experiment, they showed a prominent Oxford geologist photographs of the erosion patterns without revealing their source. When asked what caused this weathering, the expert immediately identified rain as the culprit. Only when they revealed the photos came from the Sphinx did the implications become clear. This posed a major problem for conventional Egyptian chronology. The Giza Plateau has been a desert for at least 5,000 years, receiving minimal rainfall. If the Sphinx showed signs of extensive water erosion, it must have been carved when the region still experienced regular heavy rains. The last time Egypt had this type of climate was at the end of the last ice age, around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. The water erosion hypothesis gained support from other geological evidence. The depth and patterns of the erosion suggested thousands of years of exposure to heavy precipitation. Comparisons with similar limestone structures in other regions helped scientists estimate how long it would take rainfall to create such extensive weathering patterns. These findings suggested the Sphinx was built several thousand years before the rise of ancient Egyptian civilization, a controversial conclusion that challenged established theories about human history. While critics claimed no advanced civilization could have existed early enough to build the rain-weathered Sphinx, a shepherd's accidental discovery in Turkey changed everything. What did he find? Gobekli Tepe connection. In southeastern Turkey, a shepherd tending his flock stumbled upon strange stones protruding from a hillside. What seemed like an ordinary field would soon reveal one of archaeology's most revolutionary discoveries. Gobekli Tepe, a site that would transform our understanding of human capabilities. For years, archaeologists dismissed the stones as remnants of a medieval cemetery, but in 1994, German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt saw something different. When his team began careful excavations, they uncovered massive stone circles that would force historians to rewrite their textbooks. The site contained circular structures supported by enormous T-shaped pillars, each weighing between 7 and 10 tons and reaching heights of 18 feet. These weren't roughly stacked rocks. They were precisely carved monuments arranged in careful patterns. Most remarkably, the ancient builders had deliberately buried the entire complex, preserving it like a time capsule. Scientific dating methods revealed an astonishing truth. Gobekli Tepe was constructed around 12,000 years ago. This made it older than pottery, metalworking, writing, and even farming. The site predated Stonehenge by 7,000 years and was built 6,000 years before the first known civilization in ancient Sumeria. The pillars displayed sophisticated artistic carvings of animals.
But we can be sure there had been walls, there had been pillars, there had been central pillars, everything, but they recycled it.
With three-dimensional figures seeming to leap from the stone. These weren't simple scratches. They showed detailed knowledge of anatomy and artistic perspective. Many pillars featured human-like faces carved into their tops, creating an assembly of stone beings watching over the ancient sanctuary. The construction techniques used at Gobekli Tepe required advanced planning and organization. The builders quarried massive stones, moved them considerable distances, and positioned them with remarkable precision. They created perfectly straight edges and smooth surfaces using stone tools, demonstrating sophisticated engineering knowledge. This discovery directly supported the possibility of an older Sphinx.
Of Gobekli Tepe, A, B, C, D, numbered in order of the discovery.
If humans could have created Gobekli Tepe's complex architecture 12,000 years ago in Turkey, they could have carved the Sphinx during the same period in Egypt. Both sites showed similar levels of sophisticated stoneworking skills and architectural planning. The timing was particularly significant. Gobekli Tepe's construction coincided with the end of the last ice age, exactly when geologists say the Sphinx experienced heavy rainfall. This period also matched the date Plato gave for the destruction of Atlantis in his ancient writings. Perhaps most surprisingly, the builders of Gobekli Tepe deliberately buried their creation. They carefully filled in the structures with debris, preserving them for future discovery, challenging the Sphinx's age. For generations, textbooks have taught that the Sphinx was built around 2500 BC by the pharaoh Khafra to guard his father's pyramid. This traditional story seems neat and tidy until a closer look is taken at the evidence. The first crack in this theory appears when examining the Great Pyramid itself. If Khafra built the Sphinx to protect his father Khufu's tomb,
which is all attributed to Pharaoh Khafra of the 4th dynasty, the son of Khufu,
it was expected that Khufu's mummy would be inside the pyramid. However, no trace of any mummy, royal or otherwise, has ever been found within its chambers. This absence raises questions about the pyramid's true purpose and its connection to the Sphinx. The strongest challenge to conventional dating comes from comparing the Sphinx's face to known images of Khafra. Archaeologists often point to a well-preserved statue of the pharaoh, claiming its features match those of the Sphinx. A careful measurement of facial angles tells a different story. The key difference lies in what sculptors call the facial angle, the slope from the corner of the lips to the corner of the eye. On the Sphinx, this angle is nearly twice as large as the same measurement on Khafra's confirmed statue. To artists and anatomists who study facial structure, this proves the two faces represent entirely different individuals. An ancient stone tablet called the Inventory Stela adds another layer of mystery. Discovered by French archaeologists in the 1850s, this official record describes Khafra's father, Khufu, ordering repairs to the Sphinx after it was struck by lightning. This creates an impossible timeline. How could Khafra's father repair a monument that his son hadn't built yet? The Sphinx's construction method also differs from other monuments of its supposed era. Unlike the pyramids, which were built by stacking blocks, the Sphinx was carved directly from the bedrock, a single piece of limestone shaped into history's largest sculpture. The ancient builders removed massive blocks from around the Sphinx, creating its enclosure walls. These excavated blocks didn't go to waste. They were transported to a nearby site and used to build the Sphinx temple. Scientists have confirmed this by matching the geological layers in the temple blocks to those in the Sphinx enclosure walls. This sophisticated recycling of materials shows careful planning and advanced engineering skills. Each block used in the temple complex was enormous, some measuring 30 feet long, 10 feet high, and 12 feet wide, weighing about 200 tons. Moving and precisely positioning stones of this size would have required incredible technical knowledge. Yet we're told this was accomplished using only basic tools like ropes and ramps. These inconsistencies in the traditional narrative, the mismatched faces, the contradictory historical record, and the advanced construction techniques suggest we might need to reconsider not just when the Sphinx was built, but who built it. Could this monument be the work of an earlier, unknown civilization? Construction mystery and Atlantis connection. When exploring the mystery of the Sphinx's origins, all roads lead to an unexpected source: the writings of Plato, one of ancient Greece's greatest thinkers. Unlike many storytellers of his time, Plato was known for his logical thinking and careful documentation of historical conversations. In his detailed accounts, Plato described a remarkable civilization called Atlantis. He wrote that this advanced society existed 9,000 years before his own time, placing it around 12,000 years in our past. According to his writings, Atlantis was founded by beings who were half god and half human, possessing knowledge and capabilities far beyond ordinary people. The timing of Plato's account aligns with several scientific findings about the Sphinx. Geological evidence shows the monument experienced heavy rainfall, indicating it was built when Egypt's climate was much wetter. This period coincides with the end of the last ice age, exactly when Plato said Atlantis flourished. Many scholars dismissed Plato's account as mere mythology, but careful study of his writings reveals something important. Unlike other Greek writers who clearly labeled their works as myths or legends, Plato never presented Atlantis as fiction. Instead, he carefully documented the source of his information through a chain of historical conversations. The story reached Plato through Solon, one of ancient Greece's most respected lawmakers. Solon had learned about Atlantis directly from Egyptian priests, who maintained detailed records of ancient history in their temples. These weren't tales passed down through generations. They were written documents preserved by scholars dedicated to maintaining historical accuracy. The construction methods used on the Sphinx support the possibility of an advanced ancient civilization. The monument wasn't built using smaller blocks like the pyramids. Instead, its creators carved it from a single piece of bedrock with remarkable precision. They shaped not just the Sphinx itself, but the entire enclosure around it, creating perfect right angles and smooth surfaces that would challenge even modern stone workers. The scale of this project required sophisticated engineering knowledge. The ancient builders had to understand geology well enough to work with natural rock layers. They needed advanced mathematics to maintain proper proportions while carving such a massive sculpture. They also required efficient methods to remove and transport enormous blocks of limestone. Archaeological evidence shows they accomplished these tasks with extraordinary skill. The blocks removed while carving the Sphinx were carefully cut and moved to build a nearby temple. The precision of this work suggests the builders had capabilities beyond what we typically associate with ancient civilizations. As ancient records leave us mesmerized with their tales of civilizations past, they also invite curiosity about the voices that interpret them today. But what happens when interpretations clash and tempers flare? Could the search for truth be overshadowed by personal agendas? Academic controversy. On April 15, 2015, a highly anticipated academic debate unfolded, capturing the attention of historians, Egyptologists, and curious onlookers. The stage was set for a civil discussion between two prominent figures, Dr. Zahi Hawass, a renowned Egyptologist, and Graham Hancock, author of Fingerprints of the Gods, a book that explores alternative theories about ancient civilizations. Both men were prepared to present their perspectives on ancient history, but what should have been an intellectual exchange quickly veered into unexpected drama. The event promised balance. Each speaker was allotted an hour for an uninterrupted presentation before engaging in audience questions. Dr. Hawass, however, had one stipulation. He would speak second, allowing him to respond to Hancock's claims. Trouble began even before the discussion started. As Hancock prepared his presentation, a slide featuring Robert Bauval, an engineer known for his controversial theories linking the pyramids of Giza to Orion's belt, appeared on the screen. This image triggered an emotional outburst from Dr. Hawass. He denounced Bauval, labeling his ideas amateurish and inappropriate for serious academic discourse. Furious, he stormed out, warning Hancock not to mention Bauval during his presentation. After tense backstage negotiations, Hawass reluctantly returned but refused to engage with Hancock's arguments. The tension reached its peak during the questions and answers session. An audience member innocently asked Dr. Hawass about Gobekli Tepe, a Turkish archaeological site that challenges conventional timelines of human history. His response shocked the room. He claimed ignorance of the site, despite its prominence in recent discoveries. Hancock attempted to explain its relevance, but Hawass appeared increasingly uncomfortable, retreating to the back of the room, wiping sweat from his face. Hawass's statements became contradictory when he dismissed scientific techniques like ground-penetrating radar, despite having used them in his own research. The incident left many questioning his motives. Was it personal pride, professional rivalry, or a deeper resistance to ideas challenging mainstream narratives? Like the truth about the hidden chambers, perhaps not knowing is all the excitement to it. And that's all for today. Thanks for watching.